Hey, welcome to Half the Battle.
Today, we're going back to the comics, the Special Mission series in fact, and we'll be taking a look at Issue 9, Plausible Denial. The cover shows people and a Russian Hind helicopter in a firefight. And yes, this does happen in the comic. In fact, it happens in the first 2 pages, and it's done by page 3.
Okay, short issue. That's a wrap, people.
Oh, okay, there's more to it than that. And I thought we were done with the awkwardness after the last cartoon review, but this story starts in Afghanistan, with the CIA providing Stinger missiles to bring down those Russians to the Afghan rebels, who would later become the Taliban.
Once again, yikes.
The CIA isn't doing this out of kindness, but in exchange for 3 Russian prisoners who are Spetsnaz, or Special Forces, if you will. There's also 3 Joes there. Psych Out, Slipstream, and who I thought was Flint due to the beret, but is actually Falcon. They have special plans for those Russians, so they'll pretend to rescue them wearing Soviet uniforms.
And here is where my suspension of disbelief takes a hit.
Look, I can buy that they all speak fluent Russian. What I can't buy is they speak Russian with a perfect accent. I mean, I'm fluent in English, but you can tell I'm not from an English-speaking country. I can try to put on an American accent if I want, but I can't keep it up for long without slipping up.
But fine, let's assume they're cunning linguists and move on.
So they find the prisoners and tell them they have a special mission for them. Pun intended, I'm sure, since they're officially off the books and no longer exist. Their mission, should they choose to accept it, well, they don't really get a choice, but you know what I mean, is to rescue a CIA section chief captured in Iran. To get there, they're taking an antique aircraft since it's also off the books and its metal confuses modern radars. Also, they have to wear American uniforms. More specifically, they have to dress up as members of the Joe team. Even more specifically, they have to dress up as Falcon, Psych Out, and Slipstream, the very Joes sending them on this mission.
Okay, I'm going to explain the plan.
The idea is the Russians rescue the guy disguised as Americans, but the Joes only extract the target, not the Russians, who will be caught impersonating US soldiers, thus the blame will fall on the Soviet Union.
I'll talk more about that after the recap.
They get airdropped into Iran, and the Joes' ruse was far from perfect, as the Russians saw through them straight away. Americans are so bad at impersonating Russians.
Told you I found it hard to believe they could pull it off.
Now, to be fair, the Joes did factor in that the ruse would fail, but still, they go along with it and vow to stop the inevitable double cross when it happens. They're not that great at impersonations either, though. We are commandeering this vehicle in the name of decadent Western democracy.
Smooth.
Surprisingly, the people on the bus are actually happy to be hijacked by Americans as they are refugees attempting to flee Iran. So they storm the safe house, with everybody in the bus cheering them no less, and make short work of the bad guys inside.
Okay, I should give some credit here.
It's 3 pages of a very cool close combat firefight. It's really well done. They find the CIA guy and toss him out the window onto the bus. The next thing we see is said bus arriving at the rendezvous point, but without the Russians. Plenty of angry Iranians behind it though. The Russians promised the refugees asylum in the US if they got the CIA guy to the extraction point, so they have no choice but to get them all on the aircraft.
Now, I don't know much about plane building to the point I could be Boeing CEO.
But I feel carrying a busload of people instead of the expected 4 would cause some problems. But it's fine, apparently. The Russians set all of that up as a distraction, so the Iranian militia would be concentrating south on the plain, while they go north towards Soviet territory. Both sides hope the others make it. The CIA guy points out even Psych Out got played here, though at least they got him out. And the comic ends with them wondering who's gonna get the blame for this.
Good question! And if the Iranians are as confused as I am over who did what, then the answer will be nobody!
And that was Plausible Denial. It was pretty good, and it was fun to see a Soviet team pull off a mission. That plan, though.
Why was it so convoluted?
If you wanted to rescue the guy, why not send in the Joes dressed as Russians? Right, in case they got caught, but guess what? Joes were caught in that whole Barovia thing, and the US still had plausible deniability. Maybe they didn't want a repeat of that whole debacle. I might have just answered my own question.
Speaking of Barovia,
I've mentioned on several occasions that I've always found it silly they used a whole lot of made-up countries in G.I. Joe, but I got to admit that does future-proof stories somewhat, so you avoid helping the brave Afghan insurgents like what happened here.
Well, July is upon us, and that means it's the summer of vehicles and playsets. But wait a minute, isn't there something else that's going on next month? Well, I'll see you next time, everybody, and hey, why not like, share, and subscribe if that's your thing?